Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. I started this video series last weekend and I'm going to continue it on for, well, until it's over, I guess, until 1945. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to check in every year. So right now it's the middle of 1939. Normally I'm going to check in at the end of the year. The reason I'm checking in at the middle of 39 is because of all of the things that happened in the latter half of 1939. So I just wanted to show you what the board looks like after the pre-war era, because the war is about to begin. Germany is about to attack France on this turn, and Germany's first in this turn, and so I thought that this would be a good time to stop it and to make a video before I carry on with the rest of 1939. So then after 1939 is over, then I will make another video, and then after that I will just make a video after 1940 and 1941 and so on until 1945. And the purpose of this game for me is to explore some of the rules that I haven't used yet, like some of the units that are going to be in the game next year, in the next version of the game, like tank destroyers and self-propelled artillery and armored cars. Also, I'm using some of my own house rules, like you see this guy down here. That's a that's a commander. Where's one of my guys here? Oh, I see. He's over on the side there. Anyway, Global War Heroes. This is one of my own units, and basically what they are is an elite unit. You can tell them because they have the red bases. Now that guy is actually right here, but you see this thing here, this guy with the flag, that's all of these guys over here. So there's a lot of stuff there. There's two tanks plus another tank as well, but he's an SS tank. There's 3 mechs, and there's a bunch of dudes. There's a commander, there's a hero, 2 fighters and 2 tactical bombers. There's a medium bomber there. So all of those units are right here. This thing is actually in Germany. But anyway, that's one of the units that I'm going to try out in this game. The other thing is going to be Tankograd. Tankograd is a tank complex. It was built in the Ural Mountains during the war, and it pumped out just tons and tons of tanks. And so when Russia and the Germans go to war, then Tankograd's going to go down on the board. I'm going to be using medium factories, which are halfway between a minor and a major factory. Those aren't currently in the game. I don't know if they're going to be there or not. The capital ship damage, I've changed that a little bit because I didn't like them. I'm using the proposed new convoy rules. That there's going to be some more play testing done before the game is finalized. But those rules should be finalized soon. And here, let me just show you that. One of the things that's different is you can't just put an escort along the line. Like before, you could just put one of these destroyers on this convoy line here, and that would cover the whole line. Now it doesn't anymore. Now the escort only covers the zone that it's in. So that means that you're having to use a whole lot more escorts. Like you look here, I've got 3 escorts here. I've got 1 down here, 1 there, 1 there, 2 over there. I've got 2 over there. And even at that, I'm not able to cover everywhere, because the Germans, they wanting to test out these new rules, they put 5 subs down on the board early in the game. I think they already had 1, but they put 4 more. And plus, another thing that's going to happen in 1939 is these weapons are going to come online. And Germany's got super or advanced submarines, or super subs, advanced submarines, whatever. So they're going to be trying to take the Allies' money for sure. And so Great Britain and the Americans, when they can, are going to have to build a lot of destroyers. And who knows, maybe France, when France gets taken out here, maybe some of their stuff will survive. Hopefully it does, and if it does, then I can use those on escort duty as well, because like I said, if you can't cover every zone, and you got those advanced submarines coming in, then the Germans are just gonna feast on the Allied income. So let's see what else is happening. Oh, there is one thing before I go on here. There's one thing that I forgot to mention in my video last weekend. Another rule that I've been trying, or that I'm going to try. This is the first time I'm trying it, and you could use this for this game, or you could use it for Axis and Allies, or for any game for that matter. So what it is it's labor camps. Now here I have a guard tower for my labor camp, but at Historical Board Gaming they've got the little chips as well that say POW on them, and those will be the same thing. So you'll probably use those if you're going to, and maybe you already do. So how it's going to work, first of all, let me just say that this is not a concentration camp, okay? This has nothing to do with civilians. These are prisoners of war that are being forced to do labor after they've been caught. And that's probably more humane than just outright killing their prisoners, right? But there's no way in the world that I would make any rule, part of any game for that matter, if it had to do with harming civilians. That's just, there's nothing that should be part of a game that has anything to do with that. And so these are not concentration camps. This is not like the Germans where they put the Jews in concentration camps. It's not like that at all. They're just simply labor camps. And the reason I'm putting them in there, for one, I mean, in every war, there's well, not every war. I mean, long time ago they used to just kill everybody in the ancient world. But since then, in every war, there's prisoners of war. And so that should be part of a war game. And this game here goes far beyond Axis and Allies. It attempts to be more realistic. And so in an effort to make it more realistic, I've added these. And the reason, or the way I've added them is purposeful as well. Because one of the things that you realize after you start playing this game, I assume that most people are going to come from Axis and Allies, probably Global 40, to this game. They're not going to start with this game. And in fact, I wouldn't recommend that you teach your friends to play this game unless they know how to play Axis and Allies. There's just too much involved. But one of the things that you notice right away is that the incomes are smaller in this game, especially if you're starting in 1936. The Americans only get 6 IPPs. That's the same as IPCs, right? So you only get $6 to spend. The ANZAC only gets $3. Everybody gets a lot less money in this game, even after you've gone to war. Like the British wartime income is 24 IPPs. Everybody's income is less in this game, and with more units to be able to purchase in this game, like you want to purchase them, right? You want to start buying weapons and things like that, and you can't because you just don't have any money. So this is an effort as well to get a little bit more money into the game. Rather than make people purchase these things, because that would take away from the money. Like if you charge, say, 8 IPPs for this, then people would spend just about the rest of the game trying to recoup that at 8 IPP. I'm going to do it like Commanders. In the Commanders expansion set, you get a commander each time you go to war. So like say you're Russia, you go to war with Germany, well then you get a commander. You go to war with Italy, well now you get another commander. You go to war with Japan, well now you've gotten another commander. So now you've got 3 commanders, right? With these things, it's going to be the same. There's none on the board right now because nobody's at war. But Germany is about to attack France, and so that's going to bring the war to Great Britain as well. Great Britain is automatically at war with Germany if Germany attacks France. And so what I'm going to do is you can get a maximum of 3 of these for each nation. But only the 5 original nations. Think of the classic Axis and Allies games that had 5 nations, right? There was Germany and Russia and the UK and the United States and Japan. Only those 5 nations are going to be able to get 3 of these things. Additionally, Italy will be able to have one of them, and Anzac will be able to have one of them, just to try to keep it fair and to keep it even. Russia's going to get less than the other guys, but the Axis and the Allies are going to have the same amount as each other. Now these things have to be placed in your originally in your home territory. So for instance, the home territory of the Germans is only these 4 spaces. So you can only have 1 per space. So one of them will obviously go in the capital because that'll be the most secure place, right? But they'll put 1 here and 1 here or here, depending on what they do. Now this one only has 3 spaces, here, here, and here. So for Britain, they're going to have to put 1 in each space, right? But they can have the option of putting 1 down in India as well, like just putting 2 up here and putting 1 down in India, so that India has a chance to get a little bit extra money. And in Japan, there's only 3 territories in the home country of Japan, so obviously they'll be putting their, but that's probably where you would want to put them anyway, because you're going to want to keep your labor camps secure from the enemy. Because once they've taken over the territory and liberated this labor camp, then that comes off the board and it doesn't go back on again. So you're going to want to protect these things. So what happens is, for each one of these that you have, you get an extra IPP per turn. So if Germany had 3 of these things, then they're going to get an extra 3 IPPs every single turn. And so that's one of the ways that you're going to generate money. And I've seen this before. Like, I think I've seen Hilltop Pillbox. He did a video, and his were similar. You had to purchase them, but you basically got an extra buck for having one of these things. And the reason you're going to get that extra money is because you've got people doing labor for you, right? So they're feeding your war machine in some way. I don't know how that is. It could be that they're actually building machines, or it could be that they're doing agriculture or something to feed your armies in one way or another. That's what they're doing in these labor camps. And I researched this a bit. Germany and Japan, I think, were probably more aware of what went on in those labor camps, because they were a bit sadistic. Probably particularly the Japanese. They were not very nice to the Chinese at all. And that's putting it mildly. But everybody else had labor camps as well, like the Americans and the Canadians had them in their territories. And the Americans actually paid their prisoners, not very much. But if they did labor, then they actually gave them a tiny wage. I don't know what they were able to buy with that wage. It's probably like the prison system now, where they were able to buy cigarettes or something. I don't know. But anyway, like, everybody had labor camps, and everybody forced labor, and it's probably better than being killed, like I said. So it would have been a little more humane. Anyway, the other way to generate it is, to me, the best part of any prison story is the jailbreak, right? All the great prison movies are all about jailbreaks, and so you're going to get an opportunity to break out of prison, to break out of these labor camps. And how you would do that, first of all, you have to be at war with the nation. Let's say that this is Russia's, okay? Let's say they have a labor camp here, and Germany decides they're going to try a prison break here. Now, what they would do is they would pay 1 IPP. So you pay a buck. Here, let me just grab a buck here. So you pay a buck, and then you roll the dice. And what you need to do is you need to get a 1 or a 2. So you got a 1 in 3 chance of getting it. So you got a less than 50% chance of getting it. But the payoff, if you do get it, is that one of your guys breaks out of prison. So Germany will actually get another infantry. Like, Germany will get a free infantry, and they will put him on somewhere in German-held territory. Okay, he will go on It doesn't have to be German home country. It could be anywhere. Like when you take a look over here, Germany has this space over here, which isn't German home territory. You could put him here if you wanted. So he goes somewhere on there, but you're not going to use him this turn, right? Like you're not going to try a prison break and put him in where there's a battle or whatever. Actually, no, sorry, I said that wrong. I'm thinking of something else. I'll get to that in a minute. You're going to put him on, because this is going to happen when you're purchasing your units, right? The purchase and repair units phase. That's when you're going to put your that's when you're going to spend the money and try that prison break. And so if you get it, then you can put the guy on, and then you can use him. So what? You roll the dice. Now, if you get a 1 or a 2, then this 1 IPP goes to the bank, okay? But if you roll a 3 to a 6 with the 6-sided dice, then this IPP goes to Russia. And so that's how you can generate more income. Is first of all, you get an IPP for owning this, and bear in mind this is not this labor camp is not just one labor camp in this territory. This represents a series of labor camps in this territory. That's how you can get a full 1 IPP out of that. I mean, you wouldn't be able to get that much money out of one labor camp, but this represents all the labor camps in this territory. So if you get the dude, then the dollar goes to the bank. If you don't get the dude, then the dollar goes to the Russians there. And so theoretically, the Russians could make 2 IPP from this labor camp on one turn. But in order for the Germans to try this, to try to break out of the labor camp, first of all, they must be at war with the Russians, obviously, right? Otherwise, how else would the Russians have taken German prisoners? So, and also you would have had to have fought one battle, even if there were no casualties, because, you know, like these represent, 50,000 troops or something like that. That doesn't mean that that 1,000 of them were captured, you know, and then the scalp is still on the board. So, hang on a second. Yeah, so so you would have had to have fought a battle with them. It could have been any type of battle. It could even have been attacking the guy's complex, you know, like a strategic bombing raid. It could be a naval battle. It could be a ground battle. And as long as you fought one battle with each other, then after that, you can try a prison break. And you can only try one per turn. Like you can only try to break out of a prison once per turn. You can't just start rolling dice all around the board trying to break out of these 3 labor camps and these 3 labor camps. You know what I mean? You can only do that once. So or once per nation. Sorry. So like the Germans could try to break out of this labor camp, and then they could come over here and try to break out of this labor camp in Scotland. And they could, I guess, try to break out of one in America if they were at war with America as well. So that'll give them an opportunity of getting 3 infantry for three IPPs, right? So it is a gamble. You're gambling with the dice, paying $1, seeing if you can get 1 or a 2, and then getting a $3 infantry out of it, right? And perhaps with the labor camp, you having the labor camp, you're for sure going to get $1 for it in a turn, and you might get 2. So that's how I'm going to increase the money in this game, because the money is hard to come by. Anyway, that's going to be labor camps. And soon as Germany attacks France here, which they're going to do this turn, then Britain will get a labor camp and Germany will get a labor camp. Now, France is not going to get a labor camp because the French, they'll get wiped out anyway. And I think I don't even have to explain to you that in World War II, the French, even if they took prisoners, they pretty much had to give them back within about a month, right? So, so they're not going to get any labor camps. Anyway, so that's that. Okay, now let's just take a look at what's going to happen here. Let me get nice and close here. I've showed you what's over here. So you've got 3 tanks and 3 mechs, plus these 4 planes here that are able to blitz. And I've showed you before what blitzing is in this game. So you could attack one, and if you manage to take it out in the first 2 turns, then you could attack another one, right? With your mechs and tanks and planes. The first time Germany attacks somebody, or like once in a game, when Germany decides they want to go to war, then they get 2 impulses. So they buy, then they do their attack moves, their non-combat moves, and then they attack again, and like they do their combat and then their non-combat moves, and then they collect their income. So twice they get to attack. So I think what's going to happen, like they can either go through this territory here that has the fortification, or they can go through Belgium here. Like if they want to attack this territory, these don't meet here. So you're going to have to go through Belgium to get to this territory, and then from this territory you go on to Paris. There's 2 ways that you can take out Paris. You can either take it out itself by conquering Paris, or you could take out all of the territories around it and just leave Paris alone. So if you manage to own all of these 4 territories here, then Paris falls. But I've looked at it, and I think that it would be easier to go right into Paris in this case. Now these guys have a commander, and these guys have a fortification. Like I tried to even it up between these somewhat. I think it's still easier to go this way though. The commander, he does get to leave if, like as long as he doesn't roll a 12. But a commander defending in a city doesn't really help very much, because the infantry are already +1, and you can't, with a commander, you can't stack up your, you can't say +1 for the city and +1 for the commander. It's either one or the other, right? And so he's not really going to help all that much when it comes to defending the city. So they're going to go through there. But what I think what they'll do is on their first impulse, just take Belgium, because then they move all their infantry in and everything, right? Because your infantry, like if they went for to blitz right now, then they would be going at this with just tanks and mechs and losing tanks and mechs. I think what they need to do is stop here, then on the second impulse go here, just so they lose the infantry here. Then they can blitz their tanks and mechs and planes into this space over here. I kind of screwed up here. Well, screwed up and not screwed up. The Spanish Civil War has taken a real toll on everybody, because I was feeding that for everybody. The Germans and the Russians have put a lot of money into the Spanish Civil War, and there's been no result over there. But a lot of things have died over there, believe me. Like both of them had 2 planes each at one point in time. Seen a lot of small tanks die, a lot of units. But consequently, I didn't build up a lot of tanks and mechs. Normally you would want probably twice this many to do the blitz move. But this guy's going to be able to blitz as well, along with the commander. So I'm going to go on 1939 rather than wait another year. And then also, when you're doing your double move, going to take these 2 territories with the Germans and Warsaw, if I can. Like that's the plan, right? But don't want to take these territories, because don't want to bring the Russians into the war. And then I showed you all the subs there. I just spammed the Pacific Ocean with subs. This turn, the weapons are going to come into it, as well as being able to roll for more technology. And the Germans get 1 free roll every turn. So the Russians. Now the Russians play in the Winter War here. So consequently, the Russians never signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, because if they did, then they would have to stop, wouldn't they? They would have to take Viipuri here and then stop, and then these guys would become German, right? And these are pretty powerful units. These ski troops on top of these chips here, they're really strong elite ski infantry, and so it wasn't going to do them any good to stop and leave these for the Germans. So they're going to try to take out all of Finland. They're not going to be able to do it in one turn. And it's going to be really difficult because these guys have a fortification here. They've got 5 of these elite ski troops here and 2 elite, I guess they'd be militia, CC militia. So they're stronger than regular militia as well. And then this fortification makes these guys roll wicked. Plus your ski troops, they can leave on defense. Like they can retreat after a round of combat on defense. So I could take a wicked shot against all of these guys here when they come in, and then leave, right? So that's going to be tough. But you see here on the Eastern Front, like even if the Germans were able to get through here, they're not going to have much left, and neither are these guys. That's the result of putting so much into that Spanish Civil War, and for the Russians going over here. Like there just isn't much there. Plus the Russians took a detour. So let's just take it over here. So you see Portugal there. There we go. Portugal here. The Russians came from the Crimea all the way around, and they took out Portugal. They wanted to make it a little bit more difficult on the Americans coming across the water, because the Americans would love to take Portugal, and then they would get a naval base, right? Well, now they're not going to get that naval base. They'll be lucky to get the Azores over here. That's where this German pie is. And the reason it's German is because the Russians took out Portugal. This is a Portuguese colony. So all the Portuguese colonies became German. You can see there's a couple of German roundels up there as well. And there's a couple more in Africa. Those are more Portuguese colonies. But if the Civil War is still going on when Russia and Germany go to war with each other, then it's going to help the Russians to have these guys here, because these guys, the Spanish, will become Germans, and the Republicans will become Russians. So that's one thing that they're going to have in their favor, is they're going to have some extra guys over there, right? Plus, they'd like to hang on to that, because that's going to give them an extra point at the end of the game, maybe 2 points, because they need a port somewhere in the Atlantic, and that gives them a port somewhere in the Atlantic. Plus, every territory they own is giving them a point. So you can see down here, the Russians have built up. They haven't bothered with any border skirmishes. They've been, like I said, they've been so busy with that Spanish Civil War. Now, the Japanese did not go right after the Chinese. They've only been at war for 2 turns, and that's why there's still so many Chinese units on the board. The Japanese just weren't in any hurry this game. Usually I go faster than that, but this I just wanted to try something different, right? So I tried going a little slower this time, and I don't know if that's a good idea, because you sure build up a lot of Chinese that way. But anyway, the Japanese are still pretty strong there, and we'll have to see over the next turn or two whether that strategy pans out, because they've got a lot of stuff to use there against the Chinese. And you see this thing here, this battleship with the flag on it. That's actually these guys right here. That's this right here. So that's a ton of Japanese units. You see all the destroyers and cruisers and transports. There's 3 battleships in there. And then this right here, that's where this guy is right here. This guy's standing up right there. So that's in Nanking. Nanking is a very small territory, even with this huge map. And here, that complex there is in Nanking. So one more turn, and the Japanese will be able to start building in that complex. Now, playing the Manchuria or the Manchukuo rules, they get 1 extra complex as it is. So they've upgraded. They built and upgraded this. Oh no, just upgraded this one, and then they've got this one, and then they'll have this one down here. So that might be enough complexes for them on the mainland. The Americans have hardly done anything, because they don't get a lot of money in the pre-war. So they've been able to buy just a few things. You know, they've paid off anything that was on here on the build chart. They just this past turn they built a carrier and a battleship, but just the first space along there. The Anzac have decided to be a little more proactive than usual. So what they've done is they've taken a couple of guys up here, and one's a mountain infantry because this is a mountain territory over here, and one's an artillery because if the Japanese do decide to take Dutch New Guinea, then these guys are going to be able to go after them. Without having to do an amphibious assault, right? I'd like to bring some more guys up if I could as well. Normally I just buy subs for them, but I'm trying something different. Calcutta hasn't done much. They've just been building up, just like you would expect them to. And I'll show you this. Nothing has changed down here whatsoever. Just a lot more stuff being built up in China. The Japanese did take this one territory here, and the Chinese communists took it back, so they've actually taken a territory. And the Italians have done really well. They didn't put anything in Spain until this last turn. Before that though, like they brought a lot of troops down here, right? They've got their hero down here. They've got their commander down here. They didn't lose anything when they went after Abyssinia over here. So they've actually got a lot of troops down in Africa right now. Even if they don't bring any more down, like those guys are going to be hard to move, right? France, one of the things that France did, instead of piling everybody up for the defense of France, because that's eventually going to fall, even if, you know, the Germans don't take it this turn, you know, they'll weaken France so badly that they'll probably take it next turn, right? What I've done is I've taken some higher value units, like here, there's your medium bomber, there's a mountain infantry, there's a global war hero. I've kind of put these in 3 different territories. There's French units down here, because I'm going to roll when France falls to see who goes Free French and who goes Vichy French. I'm hoping that 1 or 2 of these territories here will come out as Free French, because then at least I'll have some units for the French. Normally, like, all your units are up in France, or most of them, and then you roll and then you've got nothing left, right? You're starting with maybe $1 or $2 income, and you've got hardly anything on the board. So I'm hoping to save a couple of ships, and man, it would be nice to get these 2 territories here. Then France would actually have something, right? They would actually have some units that they could use, especially if they get a couple of ships out of it. The Americans have done absolutely nothing over there. They've done what little they've done on the Pacific side, and over here nothing has happened. I think with those subs, with the German sub strategy, one of the things the Americans can do is they can lend lease to the British through the Ottawa industrial complex up there. So what they might do, because they can't get into the war yet, but what they could do is once the British are in the war, they could actually lend lease either a destroyer or an $8 for a destroyer. Just give it right to Ottawa there, because if there's a German sub along the way here, in between Washington and London, in this case right now, this sub would get to interdict if they tried to give them a destroyer, right? So I think it would be better just to give them the eight IPCs, or IPPs, I mean, and then they could just buy their own destroyer, the British. And in that way they can get more destroyers on the board. Like, you can see a little bit better now that I'm down here. You see all the yellow markers. One of the things I'm learning with this new set of rules is that I'm going to need a lot more escort duty markers because I've used them all, and the war hasn't even started yet. So I do have these. Like, they have these coastal markers, and they're yellow as well. So I'm going to use those if I need more escort duty markers, because you'd put those under subs, and that would be a coastal sub, but I've got the coastal sub scalps, right? So I don't need those. Like over here, this is a coastal sub. I don't need one of those yellow markers for that. So I think I'll just use those yellow markers for escort duty. But you can see how difficult that's going to be, right? Like, even with all of those destroyers, I could go here with the Germans. I could go here with the Germans. I could go here with the Germans, and here, like those are up there in number 21. All those spaces there are not covered by escorts because, like I said, in the new rules, you have to be in the same C zone in order to defend a convoy. Anyway, I think that's about enough for right now. I'm going to carry on and go to war now. So I'll just let you take a quick look at the incomes up here. They haven't changed all that much, just slightly. The Axis have been doing their best to keep the incomes for the Allies down, and you know, like you do that by not building capital ships and not attacking neutrals and things like that. And so we are going to go to July 1939. This is where all the magic happens. So I'll see you later. Okay, so we're back. It's about 24 hours later, about 6 months later in this game. This turn when Germany attacks France, that's always the biggest turn in the game, probably. Guaranteed that'll be one of the biggest turns. Like there might be a big turn if, say, later on America attacks Japan or something like that, right? But with Japan being at war with China, and then now Germany and France and Great Britain at war, now they all of a sudden can unleash whatever they've built up for years, and so it takes quite a while to play. Plus, I've been busy doing other things. But as you can see, France has fallen, and it actually fell pretty easily. I did it the way I said I was going to do. Here, let me just grab my handy dandy chopstick here. I did the old 2 impulse thing. So the first impulse, I only went to Belgium here. And then that's so that I could use all these troops here. What you see that's in... what's in here, all those things could go along with the tanks and mechs and the hero, and so these guys were able to blitz along with these things here. And France did not put up much of a fight. It was a little disappointing as far as that went. And then over here in Poland, the Polish had put up a little bit better fight, but they were still fell. Like on the first impulse, the Germans took these 2 places. And then on the second impulse, they were able to take Warsaw. So by doing that, going to war with Poland, then they were able to change one of their mechs into this guy here. This is a Panzer Grenadier. So he's like an advanced mech that can blitz on his own, put it that way. And then, of course, there's a tank as well, who was made into an SS troop. And then Germany was able to get another commander because they went to war. Also, they were able to get a prison camp, as well as the British, because remember, France doesn't get one, so the British have got a prison camp now too, because they were at war with Germany. And what else happened in there? Oh, Germany, because Paris has fallen, they were able to annex one more place over here, so they took Hungary. They'll be able to annex this one, Bulgaria, on the next turn, and then they want to be careful about this one. They'll be able to annex this one as well, but when they do, they're on the border with Russia, so that gives Russia a huge increase in their income. So they'll probably want to wait until they're ready to go to war with Russia before they do that. And speaking of Russia, we'll get to what happened with Vichy France later, because it'll be easier to show you on the other side of the board. Before we go there, let's just go to the Winter War. The Russians had an awesome turn. Like they could not have done better on their turn. First of all, they went and attacked Viipuri, and luckily for them, there was 7 Finnish troops there. Luckily for them, they hit all 7 of them on the first turn, because those Finnish troops were tough ones, right? Like they were some 3-5 ski troops there, and also some CC militia. But they were all of those troops were +2 because of the bunker that was there, the fortification, and also the fortification itself got 2 shots. And so They took 7 units off of the Russians, but the Russians luckily were able to take them out in the first turn. Otherwise, like they would have suffered much more losses. Like if they'd if they rolled poorly that first turn, then they probably would have had to retreat after taking 7 losses like that. But because they took them out on the first turn, they've actually got quite a bit of stuff left in here. They still got this little snowmobile thing in here, the Aerosani. Nothing much happened over here. Like this is all the same as it was before. They haven't built up much. The Eastern Front is not built up at all. These guys are not ready for war. You see the British guy that's in here. There should actually be British pie here too. I didn't put it on because it's not worth anything. But the British take over from Poland when they go to war with Germany. But they only had one thing left. So at least Germany or the British were able to get a buck out of that. Over in the East, the Russians did nothing. But when them and the Americans are rolling D12s, 1 per turn for their income, Russia rolled a 10 that turn. So like they couldn't have had a much better turn. I mean, if the Finns hadn't have taken 7 off them, then I guess that would have helped. But it was just a really good turn for them. So now the war in China down here, the Japanese also had a pretty good turn. They were able to take out Peking here. What else? I think they took out this one as well, and they took out this one. So they took out three spaces. Oh, and this one up here. They took out one of the communist spaces as well. So that was a big bonus for them. And now that we're in 1939, they can use their weapon, which was advanced mechs. So they bought 3 advanced mechs that turn. These things are going to be good. They attack at 4 and defend at 5. So that's pretty handy for them. Tanks for the Japanese are really expensive. They cost $2 more than everybody else. So an $8 tank is probably not worth it, right? So getting these advanced mechs actually gives them a solid vehicle that they can use. The Chinese, all they did was build up a little bit more. So the British. Well, before we get to the British, let's just go to the Vichy. Now, I started rolling here. I thought I'd start here and I'd roll along. And you look at how many Vichy rolls in a row. That one, 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 that one. And finally, after all those Vichy rolls, and I kept changing dice. I said, oh, come on. This has got to change at some point in time. So I changed dice a couple of times. And then finally, a free French one here. And then I went up here. And one of the things, I'm learning the game more and more. As you read the rules more and more, you pick up things that you maybe glossed over or something like that. One of the things that I had glossed over before was that this one, and this one, these 3 territories here, all roll as 1. So you don't roll these 3 territories separately. First one I rolled was this one, another Vichy. Oh, come on, So I thought, okay, if I don't get this one, then I'm screwed. Because I put a bunch of French guys down there to try and to have some French guys left, right? And sure enough, they finally got a roll, and they got this roll as well, which is good because this one's worth $1. But anyway, so they were able to get this stuff here. They didn't get this. They lost a dude and a medium bomber. They did get Syria, which is worth $1. That's nice. Like, well, these things here, they're not worth anything, right? So what you really want to get these places that are worth something. Syria is worth $1, and I got that one. Madagascar is worth $1, and I lost that one. This is a big one here too, because you roll these together, right? Like you only roll 1 dice for these 2, and it doesn't go Vichy. It can either go Free French or it can go Japanese, and so they lost this roll as well, which is a drag because not only did they lose $2 here, but that's also a $2 bonus for the Free French. So that's actually a loss of $4 there for them, right? And then this one went Japanese as well. It can either go Free French or Japanese, and it went Japanese. And then the last one over here, this one's just a throwaway one, really. That one's not worth much. So that's, and then the ships. The Germans actually got 2 ships. They got this transport here. Like when the Germans get something, they get to move it. So they move their transport over here, and they got a sub up here. when they really didn't need another sub. These guys had to go up there and get that sub. I'll get to that in a second. Man, the Germans just killed the British and when it came to that. Now, one of the things that the French did when Germany was just about to start their second impulse, France said, wait a second, we're going to declare war on Iraq. So why the hell did they do that? Well, in this game, if Paris falls, then Paris surrenders whatever money they have on hand to the conqueror, which in this case would be the Germans, right? Now, you're probably used to that in Global 40, but this case is the only case where that happens. Like if they were to take out London, they don't get their money. London surrenders their money to the bank, right? And the same with everybody else. Only the French surrender their money to their captor. And so they didn't want to give I think they had $7 on them. They didn't want to give that. Instead, what they did, it cost the Allies $10 to declare war on a neutral. So they declared war on Iraq over here. So they paid $7, and the Americans paid the other $3. Now the Allies were at war with Iraq. So then the British, on their turn, they flew in the Hero and the airborne unit. They flew him in with this bomber here. Plus they walked this guy in from Transjordan. So they were able to get another $2 there, which is good because the Germans had 5 subs, and these new sub rules are devastating because like I had so many British destroyers all around the board. Like you can see them here. Escort, 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 escort. Escorts all up there and everything. I've taken a few things off escort since then. Like I had escorts everywhere, but all you need is one space for the subs. And so the subs were able, like here, this sub, free rolls. The British lost all but $4 from their income. That's all they had left was $4 after the German subs had taken them out. And so I had to get busy with my carriers. Carrier-based aircraft are what could go after subs. So this carrier came from Egypt to take out a sub. This carrier went and got the German sub that was the new one that came from France. This carrier came over and got a sub that was up here convoying. Luckily, this convoy didn't the sub did not roll very well, and the British rolled well on their roll, so they didn't take out any money here, but those guys went and got that sub. So anyway, the British were able to take out 3 subs on their turn, and like it's going to be difficult for them, I tell you. They're going to, like the British, they built another one of those carriers. That's the only defense you have is carrier-based aircraft to see those subs. It's either that or you're going to have to buy 15 escorts, all around the board. And, like then the subs, they might as well just gang up and go after the escorts, right? Because they're all going to be one escort here and one escort there, right? I mean, taking out $8 is going to be just as good, if not better, than rolling, right? So that's a big change in this game. As far as the boats that were saved for the French, they got the battleship, which was nice. They put it up here with the British. They got a destroyer, and they got a cruiser. The Vichy were able to get 3 boats. They got a transport and a sub and a torpedo boat destroyer there. I just ignored those when I went after the sub because the British are not at war with the Vichy. They can go in there and just pick the sub out. Like I could have gone in here and just picked this out too, but the thing is, these guys are stronger than these guys. I did not want to take any more out of here because I didn't want the Italians to come down and wipe them out and then still have a huge navy left. I think I got it to the point where, like if the rolling was pretty even, then the Italians would win that fight, but they would be they wouldn't have very many boats left, right? And so the Italians declined the invitation to go down there. I was kind of trying to suck them in to go into war too, because the Italians, they're not at war, so they can just keep building and building and building, right? And you see, like they're really strong down here in Africa. Nothing changed for them down here. They did build. What did they build? They built a unit here in. Yeah, they built a militia there, and also they paid off their battleship. That's what they did. They paid off a battleship, so now they've got 2 battleships in here. That's the other thing. Like they didn't have that battleship, so it's stronger now than it was before their turn began. But I think they still would have won that fight if they got even rolls, right? I mean, you could lose the rolls as well. So, and the Americans, they gave the British some money because the British, they're pretty hurting when it comes to money. And then the Americans, they rolled an 11 for their income increase. So they did really well, just like the Russians. And also tech rolls. Not everybody could afford to do tech rolls this time, but every time a tech roll was attempted, it was made. So like the Germans and the Russians advanced from here to here on heavy armor. The Japanese moved up on long-range aircraft, and the Americans and the Japanese have got one on improved shipyards down here. And so that's where we're sitting right now. We're heading into, I guess, 1940. I don't think I'll have any time this week to do that. I'll try to get to it next weekend. I'll try to do 1940, maybe even 1941 before Christmas. Otherwise, it'll be after Christmas because I've got a week off after Christmas, and I hope to do at least 1 year per day. You know what I mean? So that this game will be done by the time I go back to work on January 2nd. But that's it for 1939. The Americans, they didn't do anything. They gave the British some money, and they rolled that tech there, and that was it. And then they rolled their income increase. So I'll let you take a look at the incomes here. The incomes have gone up a lot since you looked last. Like the Americans doubled their income. They were at 11, now they're at 22. That unlocks a few things for them to do. Before I go, I'll just show you what I mean. See that they have different abilities when they hit different income levels. So at 15 IPPs, now they can close the Panama Canal to the Axis powers. And they can lend lease to major and minor powers who are at war with a major power. So now they can lend lease, before they couldn't, right? But now when they lend lease to Britain, they just gave it to the factory in Ottawa. But they're only able to do that now because of their increase in money, right? So, actually, you know what? I wonder if I wasn't able to do that then. Because technically, they would have been giving that money up before their increase. Oh, whatever. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll have to give that money back to the Americans and give to the British next time. That's probably what I'll have to do. So anyway, that's the end of this video. I'll just move around nice and slow. Take a quick look here. If I don't get to the 1940, and I probably will, but if I don't, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. And I will definitely talk to you before the New Year's. But anyway, I hope you all have just a wonderful Christmas with your families. I know I'm going to. One of the things I was doing this weekend was Christmas shopping. Otherwise, I might have got 2 years done this weekend. But I love Christmas shopping, especially for the grandkids. They're fun to buy for. Oh, there was one more thing. Let me just mention one more thing. I was telling about my prison break rules earlier in the game. The British actually, the first time I ever tried that rule, they tried for a prison break and they got it. So they were able to put one dude down here. They paid $1 to the bank. The Germans didn't get that dollar. And that reminds me, they get an extra $1 for that prison over there. I better put that on. And the Germans do too. So anyway, Merry Christmas everybody. Take care. General Hand Grenade out.